Hello, everybody. Right, this week, the plan is to do some metallics, and depending on how quickly that goes, I'm not sure what to do after that because we're getting to the point where the base is going to be dealt with, which will probably be next week. Big old area, so yeah, we haven't got many metallics in the set. We've got copper, silver, and gold from the prismatic ones, and we have silver and brass. I don't think I've missed anything in those old tubs, so it doesn't give us a lot of variation possibility. I'm not going to do it non-metallic metal. I'm going to keep it within sort of realms of standard kind of stuff we can do, but I'm going to try and make it a little bit more visually interesting than just a broad area of brass and a broad or whatever it might be. So initially I'm going to, I remember I've still got the axe separate to the rest of it, which will benefit me to a degree. I'm going to concentrate to start off with on the bracelets and the end of the belt, so bits on the figure. So we've already dabbled in metallics last time with the little metal hook or round thing, which I think I mixed a bit of blue in last time, which I think is still on this little palette down here. What have I got it gripped with? I think I just saw a question come up.
Yes, exactly. What have you got your axe gripped with?
This is one of my favourite things. I use them all over the shop. I bought these are just previous incarnations when Games Workshop sourced them from somewhere else. They're just pin vices, but these ones have got flat bottoms, so they're quite handy. So I might have a can I see? Might sculpt a head on the top of one of these, or I might put a separate gun or anything that I even paint a head separate to a figure on here and hold the figure in something better. But because these have got the flat bottoms, they're quite handy for that, and I use them all over the shop. So I'm making a homemade sculpting tool in one whole big hole there, and I can't see the other two that have got heads attached.
That's a good idea, because once you've pinned it, you've got a pin sticking out the bottom, and the pin vice is clever.
So yeah, that's my. They've nearly all got some evidence of priming. I hold pieces of priming on them as well. So and I pin everything. I'm a epic pinner. Okay, yeah. So what I'm going to do is, rather than just go in straight, I'm going to use the brass mostly. I'm not going to really separate and say I want this to be brass and I want this to be gold. I'm basically going to use the brass mixed with some other colours as a base, and in the same way I'm going to highlight it or create highlights and light points using the gold at the end, and maybe even some of the silver mixed in with the gold to make it even more light, more point reflective, so to speak.
Yeah.
How you might do if you were doing non-metallic metal, but I'm going to do it in metals. But brass is going to be the base colour. They're too similar. No one can look at it and go, "Ooh, that's brass, that's gold." It's just metal. It's just a yellow metal and a white metal, the way it's going to be on here. So on palette here,
what the practices are different for regular paint and metallic paint.
Oh, yeah, I did it briefly last week. I've got my brushes, and because you get little bits of metallic pigment, which can get into water, I wouldn't use my regular wet palette, because you might be lifting metallic pigment into other paints almost, as long as you're using that, it could get into the sponge and all that kind of stuff. So I'm using these pill cases from when I'm taking my regular medication. And some are really good. I really like the ones that have come with these shallow kind of semi-round things, because they're like little nice paint palettes. Your typical paracetamol type ones are deeper and rounder, a little bit more tricky, but these are quite cool for figure painting, I reckon. So I'm going to mix things separately in these palettes. I've got brushes that I've marked so that I don't end up, getting metallic in close to the ferrules and things in there, and coming out later on paint that I don't want it to. So I tend to keep metallic separate, which is why I tend not to do, if I'm doing figures, I tend not to use metallics at all, because they end up being a bit of a pain. So that's the key things about how I'm approaching this.
Okay.
For me. And I've also, so what I've done, I'm going to do a bit of experimentation here on the palette. In this little here, I've got some of the black brown. From that tub, I've got some above it, some leather brown from the prismatic stuff, and in here I've got the brass. So I'm just dipping, using my trusty cocktail stick to get that out. Right. So I'm going to initially, in another, just move stuff from one to the other, darken effectively the brass with both of those, so it's become a metallic brown, so that it becomes a starting point. I'm still going to thin it slightly, just so it flows better. And initially, the key area I want to do on this guy is going to be, I want to do the center of his, just put paint on it. Get that melt. So I'm just going to, because I'm going to do the outside bit portion in the silvers. So even though it's got brown in it, you can it's still got a nice metallic sheen to it.
You know how you can get matte medium, gloss medium? Can you also get like a metallic medium where you could add a color to it and make it any metallic?
I don't know, actually. I'm sure there are things like that.
Because that I see one of our people tuned in has got a thumb up, so yeah, that's a yes. I guess like last time where you mixed a bit of the blue into the silver. I guess that's
yeah. And I think you can buy things like pearlescent paints, which are kind of like semi-metallic. I think they've got that pearlescence is just the reflectivity thing going on. There might be something similar. You might be able to. I mean, the metallic element is still just a ground up shiny pigment of some form. Vallejo, they're on strike.
Yeah, LJ says Vallejo do a metal medium. Okay. So yeah, add your own colors.
And Vallejo do very nice metallics on the whole. I think they got a good reputation.
So how does it work then, metallic paint? As far as I understand it, it's tiny little flecks of
Yeah.
Metal.
Yes. Yeah. And it's those flecks that I try to avoid getting elsewhere if I can.
Yeah.
While I've still got it on the go before I forget. I've concentrate. So I'll put it round those inner bits, and I'm going to do it on the ends of his belts.
Yeah.
And make sure I get it carefully on the sides. And there's another one hiding here. Yeah.
So with using metallics versus doing a natural metal finish, what was it called again?
Non-metallic metal is the.
Yeah, non-metallic. That's it.
These are called true metallics in hobby painting parlance, I think.
Okay. So I guess there's a gaming piece. You're going to be looking at it from all angles. So a metallic paint would be better than using the non-metal.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think you could still, even for gaming pieces, you could still get away with non-metallic metal effects. And
if you have the time.
I'm going to do this while I've got it on my palette here. I'm going to maybe add a little bit more. I was losing.
I mean, the stuff does the job, and that's why people use it. Isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Looks like metal.
Oh yeah. There's non-metallic metal is a nice way, is a fun thing to do because it's a different way of approaching painting and a challenging way of doing things. And I think it gained kind of popularity through gaming pieces actually. From Rackham was the first time with their confrontation game back in the noughties. Their entire range was done with non-metallic metal. People were doing non-metallic metal, and there is a classic one called when it first kind of burst on the scene, there were some quite entertaining things called Sky Earth non-metallic metal, which is effectively what people are doing more and more now, but more cleverly. There was a way of doing a really bright upper part of a bit of metal with blues and a dark brown or green lower portion.
Yeah.
With a stark horizon, and that was called Sky Earth metallic metal.
In the 80s, it was very popular to do the lettering with that on. Like Afterburner, the game, or Outrun, the game. They had that.
Okay.
Blue on the top, brown on the bottom to give it the chrome look.
Yeah, it's the chrome look, isn't it? It's that hyper reflective.
That's assuming you're out in the desert, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think what people like Kirill Kanyev and Eric Swinson and those really top level guys who do some very clever paint effects now, they paint an environment in the reflection.
Yeah.
Which is what Sky Earth is. It's just painting an environment. That's the most basic environment you can really get, I think, is probably the way to look at that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I think some absolutely amazing images went from Kirill Kanyev, where he's painting I think it's a Roman legionary bust of a Roman legionary sort of fighting. And you can, when you look at it, you go, oh, I can see he's walking into a wood and behind him is a burning building. Because you can recognize those things in his helmet, reflections in his helmet. it's that clever, and it's one of those things that really does kind of elevate things into artwork effectively.
Yeah. The technique done all the way through time, isn't it? The artists, the reflections,
Yeah,
in the mirror, and then the cutlery and thing.
Well, that's the classic one. Is I think when people were first discussing the concept of non-metallic metal and the fact that it's fundamentally a 2D technique, they were, I think it's Rembrandt's The Night Watch is a famous piece of artwork, and in that they all got kind of all their armor, these Dutch military night watchmen, are all catching the light, and of course there's no metallic paint involved, and it's a 2D effect, but it's all just little dots of light or lighter colored paint in, and that's what you're kind of effectively trying to do with non-metallic metal.
Yeah,
and that's where it comes from. 2D painting techniques.
Yeah.
So there you go.
But we're not doing that. We're not doing non-metal metal. We're doing metallic metal.
Yeah, with a hint of reflectivity. I'm just going to do the butt end of his axe.
So are these essentially a base coat you're putting?
Yeah, I'm effectively doing a base coat, and then I'm going to do. I've got the. I'm going to have a look and see if I've got the washers to try and see if I can use the washers as a to do some preliminary shading on them. I think this looks like you could do some nice dry brushing on it. However, I kind of feel that when you get areas you can't dry brush very easily, like in here, I want them all to have the same feel, so I don't want to do some dry brushed and some not, which is why I'm not dry brushing. I'm going to do kind of metallic glazes, hopefully.
A technique that has its place.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so I think I've got all the main metal bits.
He hasn't got any jewellery on or anything, has he?
Only those bracelets, really.
Yeah.
There's no big clunky earrings or anything hanging down or stuff like that. But yeah, it's already. I'm quite looking forward to doing this because having that kind of, it'll be a burst of yellows around his bracelets and whatnot with the silvery metallic around it. That will look quite striking when that's done properly. Right, I'm now still. Let's get my palette back over there. Just going to add a bit more of the black brown. This is experimental stage. So it's still got some brass in it. So it's going to be kind of shadowy area, but it's still going to be a metallic-y shadowy area.
Can you show us?
Yeah, I'm just holding my finger on it a second, but it's just that. Yeah, so it's got a little tiny bit of metallic in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of those that. If I tilt it, you can see it catching you can see the metallic in it. I'm going to kind of use that just on the inside here.
Metallic wash.
Yeah, it's a thin glaze just on what would be shadowy areas of this. So because although we're going to have basically the way I'm thinking of it, in these areas, they are areas that are going to be in shadow, and the shadow won't be catching the light so much, so you don't really want too much metallic pigment in it, because that will kind of catch the light around the figure. So I'm also doing the underside here of this bit of metal.
Mm-hmm.
So the upper side, which is going to have where the light's hitting it, I haven't added any of this brassy brown effectively. I could probably do, I'm not going to do any on the underside of the belt bits. And then I've just got to get my head around where that's going to be. So that's coming down like that. So I'm going to do the underside of, maybe thin this down a bit more. It's drying very quickly. But I'm going to do the underside in here. Oops, sorry.
All right.
So,
So do you think the watch has to have some metallic flakes in it as well?
I don't think it does. This was kind of I like the idea of having some in here because it will have a matter appearance, and there's also a slightly glossy element to come back. There's also a slightly glossy area of character to it. So it's going to be matte and matter because it's mostly not metallic paint.
Yeah.
So that will end up absorbing light and being more shadowy, as it were. Makes sense in my head. Yeah.
Very difficult to see it.
Yes, it is subtle. It might show up better in the photographs later.
Mm.
So I'm effectively, just doing the lower edges. Here. So yeah, it's interesting. Right, so now I'm going to go back to the brass in my palette and move some of that into a new one, new palette divot, whatever you want to call it.
Fill palette.
Fill palette hole. And I'm adding some of this leather brown to it because it's got a nice richness to it. And
Is that a highlight, is it? Or
sorry?
Is that going to be a highlight?
This is the start of a highlight, yeah, because we're going to go use brass the topmost part, and you can see it's got the brown in it, but it's still got pigmenty bits. You can see how that's catching the light compared to the other bits of paint on that thing. Right, and so now I'm going to you can see now that's actually, I'll just do concentrate on that one bit for now. You can start to see that yellower zone compared to the rest of it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that gives it a kind of tarnished kind of appearance.
Yeah, because I mean, like I say, with metallics, you could happily paint the whole thing in one color, but this is kind of the dude's centerpiece bit of weapon.
Yeah.
It's going to be slightly more ornate. So giving it a bit more of a fancy pants look, as it were,
Yeah.
will give it more credibility on the model.
Right. Yeah.
So these little embellishments, you've got the bits that are. Oh, sorry, losing that again. You've got the bits at the top. So the light's coming down. It's being held in that way. So there's 3 of them. So we're going to end up putting highlights on the little bolt heads, but also on the upper portions of the bottom bits, as it were.
Yeah.
And we've still got. I think we've still got 2 levels of highlight to go. So we're going to end up having a pure brass, and then I'm going to pick out some little points. Little points in dabs of gold at the end. I think will just act as little top highlights.
So essentially, it's still following your technique of thinning the paint down, but it does seem like it's not as thin as usual.
No, I don't know if there's any conscious effort element to that. I'm not really used to this brass using metallic, so there is a level of. Actually, we can see there is a level of experimentation here from me.
Right.
But you can see that side there. We've got a definite catch at the top.
Yes.
If I turn it this way round, where I haven't done anything,
okay.
The light is still catching it to create that center line thing, but that's a bit boring and dull. And now that's got a lot more already.
Yeah.
There is a method to this, and it will hopefully make the whole thing look a little bit more exciting and interesting than had we just gone in with metallics on its own. So even these little lovely shapes towards the top of the axe can take some of these highlights. Still, we're going to do this other side now. I'm going to do it upside down that way. So, in the same way as I was doing with normal paints, I am treating these as if they're regular paints, I guess, in my technique here. So I'm still painting upwards to where the light is at the top. So
yeah, because he is holding it down, isn't he? He's pointing it down.
Yeah, it's going down. So you've got so as the top edge is going to have it, and then the final thing I'll do is pick out those top edges with the gold, just to make it sparkle. I think would hopefully be the way it will be.
Very festive.
It's mustn't neglect the rest of him, so I'm just going to go back with the same colour.
I just noticed those pin vices is a good idea because you can stand them up as well.
Yeah, that's why I used. I think I've got about 7 of them.
Yeah.
So here I'm just going to use this in the upper portion. So you can see there's a still, when you see this one, the inner bit has got the darker brown bit. As we go round, it starts getting brighter, brighter, and it will get brighter still. That's the intention.
Do you think he looks after his weapons and his armor?
I reckon there's some little goblin-y type things that come out and run around and clean up after him. So
Yes. Yeah.
What I'm going to try and do is just add a little bit to the upper edge of that, and there's the other one here, isn't it? So now I'm going to take pure brass. This will be quite dense with metallic pigment relative to everything else, so also seems to dry quite quickly compared to except that it's already getting a bit flaggy in the palette, unlike regular paint would maybe be a little bit more liquid for a bit longer.
Well, it'll also be on a wet palette, don't forget.
True, yeah. So right, here we go. I'm going to do that one.
Have you seen that technique of putting a frozen ice block underneath your palette?
No? Oh, I might have heard of it.
Yeah, so you I guess I can talk about it quickly here, but if you have a palette like a ceramic tile, say, like Dr. Faust does, or you have a plastic palette like you've got there, if you take one of your freezer blocks that you have in your freezer, if you lay that down with a bit of kitchen rolls, stop it condensating all over your table. What that does is it cools the palette down, which causes condensation to form on the top surface where your paint is.
Yeah.
And stops it drying out.
Ah.
Goes quick. Of course, if it warms up and you just end up with a
yeah.
a warm thingy, but then of course you can pop it back in the freezer. Never tried it myself, but
no, I think I'm aware of it.
the physics checks out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I guess that way you haven't got much control over how it works, I suppose. What they do with a wet palette.
I think you can see in the middle there some mold lines remained I couldn't quite clean off because it was in a really awkward position.
Oh, within the filigree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Forget. Yeah. What I'm going to do now, as part of the experimentation, I'm going to take. Yeah, I'm going to do because your brasses and your golds are often, if you were doing it non-metallic metal, you would be using browns and yellows to paint it a non-metallic effect. So if you're going to do a wash or anything like that, you want brown washes as opposed to a black or grey wash. So I'm going to try the sepia wash. And I'm not sure yet. I'm going to probably, just out of my own, what's the best way of describing it? my own way of doing things, I'm going to thin that slightly anyway, because my tendency is to thin stuff, and I'd rather any things were too thin, and I go and pour some more out, which is probably about 50-50 water. This might not show up at all. But the idea now is I'm going to just do this on the lower side at this point in time to see what it does, basically. So I'm letting it run a little bit. Into those, letting the nature of a wash, pin wash, go into these little rounded bits. But because it's got that lovely brown tone to it, because it's sepia, it adds a bit of lovely, a bit more vibrancy.
What's your goal with this then? Is to make it look more metally, or trying to push out the highlights and the lowlights?
I want that to be a distinct. With any painting we do, when you're doing a figure, as we did with the skin and everything, you're going to get natural reflectivity, highlights and shading from the light around you. But that only works so well in that's going to change depending on whatever lighting you're looking at it in. The idea, what we want to do with what we're doing, is that by doing these sort of light effects of those shadowy areas and brighter areas and a bit of interest going on, you could look at that in different light and they'll still be, you'll still see these shadows and things and shapes and forms. You're giving it, I would kind of maybe think of making it look interesting, making it look to somebody looking at it away from under your light, your desk light. You could move it somewhere else and have a look at it and it'd be a little bit underwhelming. So my goal is to make it interesting wherever you look at it, which could be in the kitchen,
gaming table,
on a model competition table, and we know what lighting can be like on competition tables or on a club display table or something like that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add it's umber wash. What umber wash? I'll try umber wash. I'm going to put a bit of umber wash in there. No, that's a bit not dark enough. I want black. You're just trying to. My goal is to give these things a bit more interest, shape, and form compared to what we might have if you just painted it a uniform color.
What color are you putting on there now?
This is black. The black wash. And I'm doing this to see if I can do some outlining as opposed to shading. So I'm kind of wanting to get in this lower edge here.
Yeah. Is it watered down or is it straight out?
Fractionally, and I'm kind of using it as a pin wash on this lower side, just so that those areas that are really right at the bottom do look dark.
Right. Yeah. And again, you're using that technique of pooling it at the end of the stroke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is being used to separate out some of those intricate shapes on the lower edge. You'll see that here on the underside, these are still quite brown. But if you were to look at them in the flesh, you'd see there's a little bit of a metallic hint to them. And
Yeah.
like as I bring it round, you can see it getting more metallic-y and brighter.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also just lining the edges of these because these are quite intriguing. Intriguing little shapes. So I'm letting the paint run as a pin wash, very carefully controlled kind of pin wash, just to. So I'm using the tip of my brush. I'm not flooding it.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this before. My logic is this is before the final. My final highlight. Next thing I will do is to go through and get the gold and do the final little catches of light.
That was with a silver though, or gold?
No, it'll be gold.
Okay.
Unless it looks like it could look a bit odd. Don't know yet. We'll find that out. Remember that because this is a wash. This isn't. It's still quite. Even though I've thinned it slightly, it is still reasonably thin. It's not a bad thing to use to separate these bits out. We can see there is that darker edge, and then it all gets brighter on top.
Yeah.
Which I think just looks more appealing.
It certainly looks like there's more going on now than there was previously.
But yeah, let me just get some of that gold out, and before we break, I can't find the gun. It's there, the one nearest me. Yeah, we can have a break after this little bit because that'll be about 45 minutes.
Perfect. Yep.
So yeah, I must ignore these. My dog's become really whiny. You can't hear her, but that's all I can hear. It's very distracting.
Oh.
But yeah, when I've done this, if she's still whining, I'll go and pick up the blanket for her. If she wants to get under a blanket. Right, so now I've got just pure gold. I'm going to ever so slight little bit of thinning, and see how this goes. Have a look and see how that looks. So the gold itself, compared to the brass, isn't. Yeah, you can see it's just a little bit brighter.
Yes.
It's not staggeringly bright, and it's still yellow, which is what we're looking at and dealing with for our purposes here. So I'm going to just pick out initially and see what it looks like, and see if I want to do more. So the obvious bits are same way when doing other bits. I'm using the edge of a brush just to pick up these raised areas. You can see I've only done these bits.
Yeah. It's still quite watered down, is it?
No, it's not actually. It's fractionally watered down, but not significantly.
Right. So that's the toppermost brightest highlight you're going to put on there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and this is angled down, so I'm going to. I'm just going to pick those. And if you were doing a non-metallic metal, you might have an extra bright bit.
Uh-huh.
You can see that bright zone in there now on the top.
You're mixing non-metal techniques with metallic paint. You are a genius, Rob.
I don't think so, but there is a school of thought that you can do a lot more with metallics. Metallics are you can make metallics more interesting than. So I'm almost dry brushing the top of this. I'm kind of effectively just picking up those upper bits. I can go for it. I'm just gonna.
It doesn't want to focus today.
No, it's a really awkward shape. There we go. See if I can get it. I think it's because my arm is moving too much. But if I've just wedged my arm against the desk, and my hand is behind it, so I'm putting some gold on those really uppermost bits. Yep. So the idea is that you want that kind of contrast between those. I've got an area here that's that dark brown brass that we started off with, going quite quickly to that pure gold highlight area, and that's what makes it quite dramatic. And again, I can do that on this lower portion of these little curls and knots.
What's his handle like? Has that got metal on it as well? And would you do this exactly the same on what you're here with the handle?
Well, I'm planning to do the same at the tip, but the grip I'll probably do the leather. I think, or some kind of. I might even try making it look like it's bound with something. But I haven't really decided. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that shaft area he's gripping as a metal.
Okay.
And I haven't done it yet, but you can see how that end with this bright. You can see the contrast actually. How that bit at the end, which I haven't done anything to, compared to what I've done here. How that's ended up being quite lively and I quite like it. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Don't forget us.
Yeah.
Trouble is when you're drawing it too much.
You go in the zone.
Yeah.
So what I did mention that I might add some silver in with the gold, but I don't think I'm going to bother. I quite like how this is looking, just going up to the brightest gold.
I guess that's something you could add once you put the axe on, couldn't you? If you wanted.
Yeah, when we see it in place. So that's ended up being quite shiny on the top there and darker underneath. So you can see how we've got the overhead light from my desk lamp, but you can see how the light from at that angle, which is in the shadow area, it's not really
No.
shiny. It's lost that shine
Yeah.
because it's in the shade. And we go up and we get to the bit that's catching the light as well as being brighter.
God, it looks like
Uh,
polished gold on the top.
yeah, it's come out really good. I quite like that.
Wow.
It's, and you can keep. Keep adding some of these little bit. I might end up not doing because I'm going to be doing this silver or metallics. I'm not going to bother doing all the fine detail on that because I'll probably have to come back to it because I'll probably screw it up somewhere along the line.
Doubt it. Right, Rob, let's pause now and we'll be back in a bit.
Yeah. Okie doke. Right. Now we are going to deal with the silver, iron, whatever. The kind of other range rather than the more precious metal kind of bits. So as the edges on the bracelets, for example, and it's just realised that I'm doing the gold highlights on here, but I didn't do the gold highlights. I didn't do the same on the belt bits, but I won't do those right now. We'll concentrate on the key part as well, the axe blade itself, which what I want to do is make the blade edge, which although this will be a little bit counterintuitive, although it's, if we think about the angle, it's down on our model, the actual cutting edge is in shadow effectively, or is at the bottom. I want to make that super shiny compared to that range, the rest of it, because this is the cutting edge. The rest of it isn't going to be doing much cutting, so I want that edge to be more vivid. But this has already got some scratches on it, you can see, so we can make them look a bit interesting. You can see it there. So let's go.
Would you add more scratches to it?
Could do. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, so you can, in the same way, kind of did the veins on the wings. So yes, I'm going to start, same principle as before, start dark, go brighter. And I'm going to use, some black, just pure black. And block that in a pill debris, and then clean my hand because it seems to have gotten a bit painty.
Yeah, they do get messy.
Yeah, and then silver. So yeah, silver's the top end color in this. So that will be our final highlight. Yeah, we can't go any brighter than pure silver. You could add white to it. There is a range of colors, scale 77, that have got some lovely kind of super highlight colors for metallics. I'll get to show you those in a bit, but for our purposes, the first thing I'm going to do is just get the paint on the model. So I'm going to add some black to, or silver to the black, to make a more of a gunmetal, I guess you'd call it, a darker tone compared to, thin it a little bit. For the bulk of this, this is, if you remember before I added blue, at this point, I'm just going to get this on the whole of the axe head and make sure I get it, just get paint on it to start off with and take it from there. I have some ideas for carefully against gold Um, so this is thinned, but not super thin. Uh, nice to get a nice, good coat. Might have to go over a little bit more as a base coat, make it nice, and it has different finish compared to regular paint because it's of its metallic nature. Um, there's lots of little cuts and things in here, little scratches built in or sculpted in. So this is so this is our going on quite nicely.
Something you could dry brush potentially then.
Yeah, you could uh, you could do it in the other direction. I mean, you could do the sorry, you could do the what do you call it? The, the blade before the gold and dry brush the blade
Yeah.
because I couldn't dry brush a lot of this now without getting stuff on my gold. So, you but you certainly could. I'm also looking at this thinking do some of those little bolt heads in silver as well, just to make them stand out a bit. But I don't think I will. I quite like the way that portion looks gold. All right, just might do another little coat on that.
So is this going to be a steel?
Essentially it's a iron or steel effect, uh, or steel look. Um, excuse me. Um, right. So I'm just getting a good solid coat onto which we will do all our subsequent effects. And of course, if you realise, I can see I could probably do more of a gold. Maybe not as precise as I could be. You can always iterate round and go back and do some of those bits. Because I mean, the paints are used are pretty simple in the palette. They're not complicated mixes or anything.
Be tempted to add some color from the base or the base color as if you've got some dust or dirt on the axe or maybe
uh,
blood effects or something.
well, at one point I was thinking maybe I could try and do some reflectivity of what the base ends up being. If a base is going to be, it might be something when I've done the base that I might incorporate into the blade kind of thing, some reflectivity from because it's going to have some lava running through it.
Yeah, even when you hold it there, you can see reflections from around your room
Yeah,
affecting the color of it.
you can get the pink coming from my hand.
Yes.
You can see when I twist it like that, you can see it, and that's what non-metallic metal does, isn't it? That's painting that effect
Yeah.
into it. So, and this is still, really dark, boring. Um, uh, uh, that's still quite a lot going on in terms of it's a lovely big flat area of metal, big flat area of metal,
Yeah.
and catching the light, but it's still dark. There's a lot more than this. So I'm going to get some of the black wash and put a little bit in there. And I'm going to take this is an idea I had. It might not work, but just to make things Uh, interesting. I'm going to use the hexed lichen purple colour. I'll find something. Hardly any. I'm going to thin that down like no one's business. So that's really super runny.
Is that going to go on the axe? Is it?
It's going to go on one bit of the axe.
Ah. And
So
what's the plan?
the plan is to do the upper portion from the blade up with some purple undertones, and the bottom bit with some blue undertones. Is kind of what I'm thinking, and to the point where you might not even notice it, but it will be there.
Uh-huh.
So you can see that's pretty runny, and I might not like this. So this is a proper glaze. It is going on the lower edge as well at this point because it's runny, and the control I've got, I can always, I'm happily going to go over that lower edge in a minute anyway. That's just adding a little bit of, get my hand out of the way to stop it reflecting in, but you can see there are some purples in there.
Oh, yeah. That's not reflecting your purple hands, is it?
Or my purple hat.
You're going to make the base purple now, aren't you? So,
Interesting as well. I've done what this is how things go when you're painting. I've done that side and I kind of let it get a bit messy. Whereas this side, because of the way I was holding this, I started painting upwards. So it's got more purple coming towards the brass,
yeah.
Which I like. So I'm going to try and emulate that on the other side now.
Happy little accents.
Hey?
Happy little accents.
Yeah.
As Bob Ross used to say.
Because there's always a risk. We've got all this lovely, interesting stuff going on his wings and whatnot. That this axe could end up being a little bit boring. So doing this makes it. You can see that it's actually got quite a nice bit of purple in there, which will, because it's using a paint that is a flat paint kind of thing, it's going to flatten out the metallic look a little bit in the process.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's fine because when we come to do the scratches, other bits and pieces, that purple will disappear more into the background kind of thing and become less apparent. Blue, I'm going to do something not dissimilar. Now, in there, that's going to have to go into another thing because that's way too thick. Again, this is going to be crazy thin. I'm going to do that on the blade edge itself.
Okay. And that's going to be relatively clean.
Yeah, it's going to be brighter.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be sharper. That's the intention. I want it to have the appearance of being sharper.
Or sharpened.
Yeah, so you can see when that's at that angle, you can't quite see the blue, but you can still see a bit of a purple.
Yeah.
So those two lumps of metal, two areas of metal, are going to end up having a different character to one another. Is kind of a direction I'm hoping to go to. I can put maybe one or two more. Well, I might even, that'd be interesting as well. I'm actually dabbing this glaze because it's quite runny, and it's going to go and create a bit of texture and shape as it dries, a bit more interesting. You can see there are different. There's definitely that kind of purpley bit and the bluey bit.
Yeah.
You can probably see it float more there than anywhere else because there's no reflection from my hand coming from above. It's still drying the one side of it, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it looks like the top, the metal of the axe is oxidized somewhat, and then the sharpened part of it is the actual color of the metal.
Yeah,
and that purple just gives it that kind of off-worldy fantasy look as well.
Yeah. What I'm going to do now is I've got some silver and I'm adding some black into it again. So, but this is much closer to silver now. I'm going to take a dab of the blue.
Oh, that blue again.
I'm putting the blue, hardly any into it. And now...
And that blue reflects in his wrist rings.
Yes. So I'm now going to do... see how this goes. I'm kind of painting. This isn't massively thinned. This is almost, but it's brighter than what was there. Hard to explain, really. So in theory, that's going to end up being part of the brighter edge on the bottom. Going over the blue. I'm going to carefully use that on the lid. You can see actually where I've gone there. That's maybe a little bit too. I'm actually going to dibble that, just with the, just to make that area going to be silver or brighter, but because I'm not really doing it as a glaze as such, just going to make that.
And you've used that technique on the piece already, haven't you? So that'll make sense that you use that.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to avoid a sharp. You can see where I painted that edge or this line here. There's quite a sharp edge between that bit underneath. So I'm just going to dabble in there just to make it a little bit less obvious. Now, what can we see? Yeah, so you can see where that brighter bit's gone down now. And that's so you can see that there's a lot of variation and interesting things going on in there. but it's still not. I still haven't got the brightest silver yet. So,
is this something that you would put some black into as well, or it is?
Yeah, I mean, what I might do quickly here, because I can see them, and I kind of want to take. This is the black wash that's sitting on the palette. I didn't really end up using, so I'm just going to carefully see how that goes. We've got these scratches going down. I'm going to paint into those scratches with the wash.
This is the same pen wash as you used on the hilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the wash straight out of the tub, so to speak.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do as well is just at that boundary between. You can see that purple.
Yeah.
Bit variation, can't you? Quite nicely. And I'm going to do the wash. See if I can do this as a glaze, just sweeping up, so we can still see the purpley bit underneath, but we're separating out the brighter silver blade bit. You can see it there, can't you?
Yeah.
So it's just it's just making that look a little bit more but they are kind of sharpened. Nice now, isn't it? You can see how metallics don't all have to be boring, but again, this wash dampens down the metallic nature. It flattens it slightly.
Okay. So
because it's a flat paint effectively. So I'm going to.
There's no metal in that wash at all.
No. So you lose an element of the metallic nature, which is fine because we don't. Part of. You can end up with things being too metallic in my mind, which is why adding these shading bits and whatnot makes it more interesting, because we can go through and just to go. So you, so there's the scratches that are inbuilt, but I'm going to add a few extra manual scratch. So I'm going to do some little light lines with the wash, which are almost so imperceptible, but just random scratches. And although those the wash, although it doesn't show up like big thick black lines, for example, because the wash itself hasn't any metallic pigment in it, it removes the shininess in places where it has gone more than acting as a paint. It's just taken the edge off some of those shiny bits. So
yeah, I see it.
It's created a little bit more shape and texture and interest in there. And do some in the other direction. So I actually haven't done that side yet. Probably do that later, but we'll concentrate on that.
Oh yeah, well, you can see the difference between the two sides. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, just to how we're doing, I'm going to take some of the purest silver, my purest green, so in the same way of thinking as the gold, I'm thinning that a little bit more because I don't want to overdo. It was super bright because of the nature of you're still depositing pigment. it will still be the brightest of pigments. So that's these things here. You want this to be something you can do thin lines with. So I'm going to be doing that. So I want to do that side of it.
Has this been the same brush all the way through?
Yeah, that's actually. This is a number 1 Winsor and Newton Series 7.
Uh-huh.
Which I think last week when I was painting, I forgot about it actually. The nice one that came in the box, I think, and that was as nice as this. I don't think it would last as long as this, but it certainly gave the same amount of control, I felt, and it could cope with doing these thin lines. So yeah, now I'm doing the super silvery bits.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do very carefully.
Very difficult to see because obviously you've got the natural reflection of the metallic as well.
But that's a nice, yeah, that's that silvery bit there.
Yeah, that line.
That's pure silver, just on the slight ridge that exists separating the blade edge. You can see that, yeah, well, maybe it catches the light. Yeah, you can see where that pigment has been left, but you can see how you can change the character of a pigment over a metallic surface by, this is because it's got the purple on it, has become less shiny, because you can even see where I put the black wash around this edge and that edge. But when the light catches the blade itself, because it's got more closer to silver, that really does catch the light.
Yeah. Looks like a top of tomato.
Well, that's the thing. That's what we wanted. I think it adds that, you've got the golds and stuff going on, and what had the potential to be really, really dull and uninteresting has got a lot more going on. Quickly gonna do, well, I've got it on the palette because I forgot about this. Is blue.
Yeah, let's do another 10 minutes or so, Rob.
Yeah, I'm gonna just. You could. I think hopefully this gives the idea of how you can vary colours and things, and use glazes and things. I'll show an example of something I've done in the past as well, just to illustrate what I've done before and how you can make metals more interesting than just being silver or whatever they might be. So I've got the darker tone now. I'm just going to go and carefully paint. Strangely, the painting of what do we call it? The axe head was less stressful than trying to paint this, because this has got all our carefully painted other bits right next to it, so the skins and whatnot. Whereas the axe head is just metals on there at the moment. There is nothing more than just metal.
So I notice
Um,
you're just painting the center of that. Is that on purpose?
uh, you mean not trying to take it right to the edge?
Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Okay.
It's difficult. It's difficult. But there's a good chunk of black in there already that
Yeah.
acts as a separator line, effectively.
Because I mean, you did that with the horns, didn't you? You left us a little bit of black at the very base of.
Yeah, yeah. But I need it to go as quite a way through because we're going to go back and this is really awkward. These wings are so awkward. Um, Although they do work as a good place to rest my fingers or support my fingers while I'm trying to get this paint on it.
He's a demon. He doesn't care.
No, that is true.
That's good. I like that. So as if you go the silver right to the edge, that means you can then blend it with a wash later.
Yeah, I would still go. Yeah, I'm still probably going to go through, and I didn't really do much more of the gold on here than I did a lot more on the axe because the axe had a lot more interest going on it, and I could probably do what I didn't do is the gold highlight, so to speak, but just do it as a brighter bit on one center area kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
I'll just do the other one.
I can't remember if did you use purple in the wings?
In the wings, only specks of blue from those
Blue.
capillary bits. Um,
On the inside of the axe, could you put some green on it, like very thin green wash to reflect the green legs?
you could do, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see the stuff I might do when the axe gets attached, and you can kind of get a feel better. Because it's metallic, it might even reflect some of it naturally.
Uh-huh.
Uh, these are really awkward buggers. Some of it's still got green on it from some of this edge. Should really have gone through and painted it black again. I might still tidy that up later, but
So if you got yourself a new wet palette and gave it a good old clean out, could you use a wet palette with the metallic? Maybe you had two wet palettes.
I haven't really thought about uh, doing metallics in a wet palette. You could definitely do that. I don't see why you couldn't.
Hmm. I was just thinking how interesting it is that you're able to change how metallic it is using a wash.
Yeah.
A non-metallic wash.
Oh yeah, glazing.
Glaze, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that axe looks like it's got weathering to it, with
Yeah.
the black corners,
Yeah.
as if it hasn't been touched there and it's oxidized. Um,
Okay. Very quickly.
yeah.
I've got now. That's the blackened uh, silver, and now I've got this bit here, which is brighter. Uh, and what I'm going to do is just go over some of the upper edges. So
Of
when I say
this
the upper
silver part.
edges, so this is it. Yeah, if the light's coming down from here,
Uh-huh.
uh, sorry.
Yeah. Would you highlight the gold as well?
Yeah, I was saying that, but one thing I didn't do is I didn't get the gold highlight in the middle, which I could still probably end up finishing off with. Um, but yeah, that's already starting to jump out a little bit more. I quite like that silver on the outside
Yeah.
look on this. I'm going to do the same again on this side. And because these are serving a different purpose to an axe head and whatever, um, I don't need. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about. I am going to. These are more ornamental. I'm going to use the pure silver in the same way I'm going to use the pure gold eventually. Um, just in a narrow area.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're darker on the inside. And last thing I'm going to do is
It's going to
see what.
be covered in bling, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, as well, is that gold. It definitely dries quicker than regular paint. This metallics. I know it's not a wet palette and everything, but there we go. So I've just reconstituted some of my purest of gold, and I'm going to ended up being a little bit watery as a result, and I'm going to add just in this middle area. Oh, you can see it now straight away.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I've noticed as well is even if it's dry, it's the same color. You notice when your opaque colors dry, they dry slightly different color because
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
water content, but the metallics seem to keep their color, don't they?
Their luminescence.
Is that the word? Right.
I don't. It's a word relating to something. It sounds all right. There you
Yeah.
go. So you can see that's darker on the inside there, and coming around, it's got that brighter goldy bit, and we'll do the same on the other side.
Yeah. So for next week, then, will you go around and just kind of clean up the metal work at the back and the back of the axe, the handle,
Uh,
ready for the base?
well, I mean that's the thing now is. Oh, hang on. I'm um, uh, just gonna do some pure gold on this upper edge. There you go. Look, you see that
Yeah.
just at the top, and if you look at the shape of this square, this oblong bit. So you've got two edges are down. So bottom edge and that's that side,
Yeah.
and then this side and the top are going to be catching the light, so they can have the purest, brightest gold, which catch the light nicely there. And on this bit, that entire I'm still going to do the same principle. I'm not going to take it. There we go.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference, does it?
Yeah, it's quite surprising, but
Mm.
quite a nice effect. Oops, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking maybe. So I've got some of that. This is the sepia um, wash, and I'm just going to use that because I did it on there. And I use that on the inside shadow area,
Yeah.
which just adds a little bit of richness to that shadow, I think, because it's got a bit of a orangey red tone or orangey tone in it.
That gives it more of a curve as well, does it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I've still got that really bright goldy stuff going on. I'll do the same in here. Right, there we go. I think. Yeah, I was wondering if between whether I just finish the metals offline kind of thing, and then next
Uh-huh.
week go on to the base.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's not much more I can do on the metals really, um, other than just sharpen things up a little bit. I don't unless I come up with something on that purple bit. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, oh yeah, that's the other thing. So yes, that concludes making metallics a little bit more interesting and lively than just painting them one big color.
Yeah.
Um, there's some interesting things going on as a result. Quite liking, like you say, oh, I didn't do that axe head top
Yeah.
bit.
You could do that off camera, can't you?
Yeah, because it's going to be the same principle as all of this
Yeah.
stuff here.
Yeah.
And well, it's quite easily missed because it's just hiding at the back, but it will suddenly pop alive in the process because there's some little details on there that look quite nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that contrast between the gold and the silver there is pretty nice, and adds another colour to him, making that a little more interesting. And just to illustrate what mentioned about what I remember is his one I prepared out. This is something I did on a project a long time ago, but you can see how same principles as what I was doing. So starting off with a base color and then glazes, you can see within some of the silvery metallics there's some reds and purples and things going on in some of these on this.
Yeah.
And I've done highlighting in on the top edges and scratches, and even going to these metal bits either side here. You've got silver at the top and darker underneath.
Right.
So it's using the same principles of highlighting and shading. Pretty old this. Yeah, and just adding shape, shape and texture and interest to what is potentially quite a dull, boring surface. So
Yeah.
that's
Those metals. Really good.
what I attempt to do here. So there you go. So we're
Okay.
nearly there. We are very nearly there. It's
So are you going to be able to do the whole base next week?
I don't know. I'd like to think so. We might bring the dry brushes out again. I might be able to. It's quite simple. There's textures in there I managed to plonk in the process. So
you talked about putting lava in there, didn't you? So like a really bright.
Yeah. So we've got the Models for Heroes thing in there.
Yeah.
Which will be lava-y rounds, and it's going to be quite dark. The main base is going to be a dark rock of some description, and then obviously his toenails will contrast quite nicely with that because they'll be brighter, still not exactly. They'll be a little bit more like the horns, but again, there'll be a nice contrast against a dark base.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Rob.
My pleasure.
Right, until next week.
Yeah, until next week. Next week, 2 weeks?
Next time, let's say.
Oh, yeah, until next time. We're not quite at Christmas in 2 weeks, are we? So,
No, not quite. Cheers, mate.
yeah, okay. Take care, everyone.